Hello Bookish friends and welcome to my new library room. Today I'm going to be showing you around the room and most excitingly I'm going to be giving you my shelf tour, which means you're going to see some romance, you're going to see some horror and you're going to see some weird books because why would you not? It's me. But mostly I'm just excited to show you this room because it is literally my dream to have my own library room. I've peaked, I can die now, it doesn't matter. But truly, when we first viewed this house, this was a room where we didn't immediately have an idea as to what it would be like. That's a bedroom, that's obviously the kitchen, that's whatever. This was a room where we didn't immediately know what it would be, and I knew I was marrying the right man when at the time my now husband turned to me and he was like, that should be your library room. And just like that, he was like, have your dream that you've always wanted. So we're keeping him for now. Might divorce in the future, but for now, he's safe. Okay, so first up, we've got my two bookcases that are sitting on top of one another. I've got my TBR shelf, I've got my two manga shelves, and I've got my non-fiction bookcase as well. The TBR shelves, I'm not going to talk to you much about today because I'm going to do a different video where I talk you through my TBR shelf and what's on there and why. But at the minute, books I'm particularly interested in reading include Paradise 1 because I like aliens. I like them in romance, I like them in horror, so I'm down to watch them fuck and I'm down to watch them murder people. So, aliens. Not sure if I will love this one though. It might be a bit like too much, I guess, not enough horror. Too sciencey, or just depends. I obviously have to read it. Also particularly interested in this one, which is a romantasy, which I've heard has a really good blend of romance and fantasy, because I often struggle with romantasies with there being too much of the fantasy stuff. I want more of the romance. And of course this one. To be honest, this should be at the top of my TBR. I don't know why I'm not reading it right now. Instead, I'm filming this video. Bizarre. But yeah, this one is a particular one of interest of mine for obvious reasons. So I look forward to reading that immediately. I should also say I'm very interested in reading The Coven too, but your girl is lazy and I can't be bothered to take that from the bottom of the pile to show you. So next two shelves are the manga shelves. Now I don't really collect manga very much anymore, but I can't bear to get rid of my collection because a lot of it is like well over a decade old, and it's just very nostalgic for me. The only manga I have collected in recent times has been Akatsuki no Yona or Yona of the Dawn. I still do collect them a little bit, but I don't spend loads and loads of money on them. Then we have got my non-fiction bookcase. Now what I'm going to say from the start is I have organised my bookcases. Asterisk. Because to me, they make sense. But to other people, maybe no. But it's like a chaotic organisation. So non-fiction, we've got my cookbook shelf. Pretty simple. Second shelf, we've got books about animals. Then we've got some therapy books, and then we've got autobiographies, and hidden behind that, we've just got random books that don't fit anywhere or make any sense. And then on the bottom shelf, I am quite confused by the bottom shelf at the minute, to be honest. It needs kind of more going on there, but I don't read a lot of non-fiction. But it has some crime books, good start, books in an order. Then we've got a random book about like my family history, don't know why. Then we've got a pile of books that is a collection of therapy books, books about living in Japan, books about writing, and then colouring books. Now on the top of my non-fiction shelf we have a pretty houseplant book. It looks nice, so it's up there. And then we have a stack of like journals, because I keep buying them but then I keep not using them. So now I just stack them decoratively because I'm also not going to get rid of them ever because they're mine. Next, we have my favourite bookcase, which is my feature bookcase. Now behind me, as you'll see, probably the best books ever written. They are written by Fabio. He was a model back in like I want to say like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and he did a lot of modelling for romance book covers, and then he ended up just absolutely blessing us all by writing his own books with a ghostwriter. And I mean, this is Fabio here. What a specimen of a man. Of course I had to pay money to get them imported from America, who wouldn't? And of course I've had to put my little horror bag up there as well. Now, next shelf, absolutely love this shelf as well. This I think is probably my favourite paranormal romance series ever at the minute. It is the Clickanian series by Victoria Aveline. I don't collect a great deal of special editions, but when it's a series I love, I have no choice. And this was quite expensive to collect, but it was worth it. It's on KU, it's included in your subscription. underneath that, even though I don't have that many small town romance / cowboy romances, I've decided to give myself a whole shelf for small town romances / cowboy romances. Of course, featuring my Elsie Silver Chestnut Springs collection. This is where the majority of my pretty book collections are going. But I do love a cowboy, so I am going to add to this section over time. Under that is my Tessa Bailey shelf. Of course, we need a Tessa Bailey shelf. I love her. I've got so many of her books, she needed her own shelf. And of course, I had to display my special editions of those books too. And finally, under that, we have my Sprayed Edges shelf. Now, this shelf is a tad bit chaotic because my friend was like, just do it so you've got all your contemporary sprayed edges on there and then put your paranormal sprayed edges somewhere else. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. And then I did that on the phone, and then I hung up the phone, and then I immediately took several of the contemporaries out and replaced them with paranormal romance. The shelf next to that is my historical romance shelf. Now, at the very top, of course, we have to have Bridgerton. I have not read a single Bridgerton book, but I do like the TV show. And I saw the special editions and they were so beautiful. And I was like, you know what? Your girl is just going to go for it and assume I'm going to love the books. Please, God, I hope I love the books. But I bought the special editions and they're just so pretty. Even if I don't love the books that much, I don't think I can ever regret buying them because they just look lovely. All of the rest of the shelves are just sorted in alphabetical order. Can you believe, by the way, when I first did this, I did not sort them into alphabetical order. I just shoved books in there willy-nilly. Yeah. Regardless, there's no rhyme or reason to these shelves, just alphabetical order. I will say there is a good mix. Well, there's a few cartoon covers. The rest are like sexy real men and sexy real women on the covers. But there's a good mix of historicals that I actually think I'm going to read and enjoy as romances, and then historicals that I've bought for science, not for enjoyment. For example, one of the books I have on there is The Flame and the Flower, which, if you don't know what that book is, it's a historical book that I'm going to read for science only, because the hero literally grapes the heroine and then gets his happy ending with her. We don't love it when grapists get happy endings, but it was an incredibly influential book, and so I'm going to read it for science. This one scares me. I don't even really remember buying it, but it's The Best of Violet Whisper, and it has one called The Shake's Captive, and it's like a sexy romance with a shake. I just think it's going to be like real problematic, but again, this is another one I'm reading for science, not for romance. Particular favourites on this shelf, I have to mention The Captain of All Pleasures. I don't know if it's Cresley Cole's first book, I think it might be, but I love Cresley Cole and this is just such a good book. I think the second half is stronger than the first half, but nevertheless, I really enjoyed it and you could really see the beginnings of Cresley Cole, and it's interesting to read this and then read her others and see how her writing and her style developed. The Duke Buys a Bride is just absolutely insane. It's very unhinged, but that being said, I really, really enjoyed it. So I very highly recommend this one as well for a little bit of unhinged fun. And of course I have to mention the classic Lord of Scoundrels. This book is a classic for a reason. It blew me away when I first read it. I absolutely love this book. Loretta Chase is a genius. Thank you for blessing us with this book, and isn't this cover beautiful? I just love it. Onto my contemporary romance bookshelf. So at the very top, I have my very small romantasy section. Now, maybe not all of them can be considered to be romantasy. I haven't really read many of them on there because I'm not a romantasy girly. I'm not sure if Daughter of the Moon, for example, is strictly a romantasy. But nevertheless, there are my like fantasy romantasy books on there. I've also got a very small collection of dark romance. Now, Priest, I don't know if that's technically a dark romance, but it is a dark romance, so it's up there. Next shelf, we have sports romance. And again, this is a growing collection. I love sports romance. I wanted to give it its own shelf because I own quite a few in ebook, but I want to expand my physical collection as well. So I've given it room to grow. Now for sports romance, particular series that I really do recommend is, I think it's called Playing for Keeps series by Becca Mack. This is the first book, Consider Me. I absolutely love this series. It honestly does something different. It feels very different to the other romance that's on the market at the minute. And I have done a video on that on other channels, so you can look at that if you want to. There are links. If you go onto my channel, you will find everything. But I do very highly recommend this series if you like sports romance. After that, we have my shelf dedicated solely to billionaire romance and celebrity romance. And there is overlap between the two. It's why I've put them together, but I love a billionaire Okay, a romance billionaire, you can have ethical romance book billionaires. You can't have ethical real life billionaires, but in books it's okay. For the billionaire romances, ones that I particularly love is Megan Quinn's A Not So Meet Cute is the first book in the series. Really love that book. And I also loved Sylvia Day's Crossfire series, I think it is, and the first book is called Bared to You. I'm sorry I couldn't be bothered to take them out of their stacks, okay, but they are on that shelf. Really recommend those series. Check the trigger warnings for Sylvia Day's books in particular, because they deal with some really quite dark themes, but those are just series that forever have a place in my heart that I love. And then the final 3 shelves are just miscellaneous contemporary romance. I have a lot of those. I find it much easier to go into like the works or wherever and just pick up a contemporary romance than I do any other real kind of genre or subgenre. Moving on to my favourite shelf. It is a little smaller now, but it's going to grow. It is my paranormal romance shelf. Controversial opinion, paranormal romance beats romantasy any day. But I love paranormal romance. The reason I don't have the most massive collection is because a lot of paranormal romance is on KU, so that's where I read it. But again, I'm starting to buy my paranormal romance books now off World of Books and things like that, so it's growing. Top shelf, alien romances. I love Alien Dick. I'm just going to be honest with you, it's probably like my favourite form of paranormal romance. I just love aliens, and again, I've read so many, I've just got them on like KU, so I'm expanding that section, but this is what I've got for now. Of course, I've already talked about the Clarkanian series, which I love. I also will do a little shout out to Haven 10, which is more of like a sci-fi one, but I didn't exactly know where to put that, so I've mixed that in with the alien romance, and this is more like a sci-fi thriller romance, but I absolutely love this book, this series. I very strongly recommend it, and it's on KU, so you can read it as part of your subscription. Next is my Kresley Cole paranormal romance shelf. I am slowly making my way through the Immortals After Dark series. Mwah, chef's kiss, love it. What is egregious on this bookshelf is that I don't have a Nalini Singh shelf, because I think probably the Clarkanians is just my favourite paranormal romance series at the minute, but the Psy Changeling series by Nalini Singh, that's second, and a very close second, because that is beautiful. Last 3 shelves are just miscellaneous paranormal romance. Now, I appreciate that it's a bit rogue sticking this in the paranormal romance section. I know this is a romantasy, okay? I love Under the Oak Tree, even though it is problematic. I love this book, even still. It was just too pretty to like stick it at the top of a bookcase. I just needed to have it out. So yes, bit rogue to have this there. It is romantasy, not paranormal romance. Nevertheless, please forgive me. Second to last, we have the horror shelf. I am a little bit confused by my own organisation of the horror shelf, but it would be more bizarre, to be honest, if I wasn't confused by something I did. So yeah. Top shelf is my extreme horror, supernatural horror, and folk horror section. Plus, it has the hand from Talk to Me. I've got merch from Talk to Me because that is one of my favourite horror films nowadays. So I've got that hand there as well, and it does curse me every day, but then I was already cursed, so it probably doesn't make that much of a difference. If you spot any books in this section, or indeed any of the sections that you think, actually that doesn't belong there, please do forgive me. I tried my best. I haven't read all the books on my shelves, so I just had to guess with some of them. Next shelf is my haunted house / ghost book shelf, because I fucking love a ghost and I fucking love a haunted house. Underneath that, I am confused as to what that shelf is. I think it's my monster horror shelf. I'm pretty sure. I think I might have spotted a couple that maybe aren't monster horror, but I think it's my monster horror shelf. So yeah, particular one of note there, can't be bothered to get the book out, Dead Silence. Absolutely loved that book. It's pretty much like Titanic meets a haunted house in space. It is amazing. The first half is very horror. The second half takes more of a turn into thriller, but it's one of my favourite horror books I've ever read. On that shelf also, you can see my little like crystal turtles there having a cult meeting. I've got my cute spooky ghost little match lighty thing. And also I've got this bottle of Dom Perignon Rosé. I like to have a bottle of Dom Perignon with every meal, you know, just a cash £500 bottle. It's all chill. No, this I actually had at my wedding day because I got married like just a few months ago in May 25, and when we booked the venue, we had to put a certain amount of money behind the bar. So I was like, you know what? We have to put a certain amount of money behind the bar. I've always wanted to try fancy champagne. Can you guys secure us a bottle of Dom Perignon? And they were like, sure, because money. So I had a bottle of Dom Perignon, and not gonna lie to you, it was lovely. It tasted like nice Prosecco. Whenever I've had champagne in the past, I'm not gonna lie to you, it honestly mostly just tastes like piss. Now, granted, the champagne I have is usually like £40 champagne, and that's quite expensive because I am a cheap Prosecco girly. I just go to Asda, I buy the £5 bottle of Prosecco, and then I squeeze in a bit of the Summer Fruits cordial that you can get from Aldi. If you haven't tried it before, beautiful. That being said, when I do splurge on a nice £30 bottle of Prosecco, I'm not gonna lie to you, it does taste like this. So I'm probably not going to have Dom Perignon again. I'm probably just going to have a nice Prosecco. Nevertheless, it's being displayed Hall of Fame on the horror shelf because it's horrific how much that bottle actually costs. Next shelf down, I have short stories. Absolutely baffled as to why I have so many of those because I don't even like short stories generally. And I'm actually giving quite a few away. So I don't know why that's there, but nevertheless, short stories and then a very small slasher pile. And on the bottom shelf, I've got my YA horror. And a little bit of litfic horror and a little bit of like classics like Dracula and Frankenstein. Onto the final shelf. Now, this one is just a bit unhinged because it doesn't, like, it's organised, but is it though? Not really. So top shelf, we have sprayed edges. Again, we have a mix of contemporary romance and horror. Why? Because they have sprayed edges. Shelf under that, Stephen King shelf. I used to read a lot of Stephen King as a child. He needs his own shelf. Shelf under that, I've got my YA romance, just the stuff I used to read as a child, can't bear to give it up. I used to love Louise Renison and Georgia Nicholson series, I think is what it's called. I used to love that series and I display it prominently. Under that is my Meg Cabot shelf because again, Cabot? I'm gonna say Cabot. Because again, I loved her, I read her books all the time. So I've got some of her YAs on there. I've got some of her adult romances. Definitely shouldn't have been reading those as a child, but I did. And the Mediator series is one of my favourite ever series. I will forever love that series. It's still, I don't really read YA as an adult, but it's still a YA series that I return back to again and again because I just love it so much. And big bonus points to her because she did the YA series and then years later, after all of her fans of that series grew up, she wrote 2 books that were adult romance from that series, and that I really rate her for that. And then the final shelf, that is my literary fiction romantic drama type Nicholas Sparks type books, and then weird books. Big Titty Nun book, that's currently on my TBR. Obviously, that needs to be in my weird book section once I've read it. Very quick tour of my weird book collection. And I will say, I have many more weird books than just this. This is not my whole collection. It's just most of them are on ebook. I don't need a physical copy of Footsucker. I just don't need it. Image of the Beast, no idea what this is about. Excited and scared to find out, quite frankly. Flesh, I think it's some weird like 60s erotica book, but I think this is a first edition. So this was probably like made in the 60s. So that's pretty cool. Unbortion, what can I say about this other than, ugh. It's certainly made for a unique reading experience. Stacking Doll, classic bizarro fiction. Marabou Stalk Nightmares. Why, you ask? I don't know, and you're asking too many questions. Motel Fetish, this was one many years ago. My husband, when he was just my boyfriend, because he's been promoted, he went to Venice and he was like, I need to buy my darling, beautiful girlfriend a souvenir. And so he, for some reason, bought me this. And like, it's only a woman in her underwear. I just don't know for sure if I can show it, so I'm not going to just in case. But like, it's definitely aggressively like, you can't show what's inside the book because it's mostly like unclothed women. I am a bit baffled, but also not mad about it. Anyway, that is my new library room tour. It ended on a bizarre note, but are you surprised? Hope you've enjoyed the tour. Definitely let me know which section you'd raid first. But very, very soon, I'm going to be doing an unhaul schmiveaway because I've unhauled quite a few books and I don't have anywhere to put them, so I might as well give them to you. Stay tuned for that video. Also stay tuned for my TBR shelf video where I take you through all of those books. And subscribe for more. Come and join the weird unhinged book gang. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video.